Number 10. Leaf-tailed gecko. A new species discovered in Madagascar is one of the coolest camouflage experts in the animal kingdom. Difficult to spot during the day, the leaf-tailed gecko like to hide out in piles of dead leaves, covering themselves with their own tail and sticking out their legs, which resemble twigs. Similar to another species, the satanic leaf-tailed gecko, this species is 50% larger than the satanic version, but that doesn't mean life is easy for the species. Living on protected land, they are still often collected from the wild for those looking for a unique pet. With long, flat bodies, triangular heads, and broad leaf-shaped tails, they are able to completely camouflage themselves against the leaves and the bark of the trees. They tend to rest with their head facing downward, but when they are disturbed or in danger, they open their jaws wide, exposing their bright red mouths and letting out a loud distress call that is said to sound like a child screaming. A carnivorous animal that mostly eats snails, these forest-dwelling lizards sure know how to blend in. Number 9. Giant fishing spider. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, you find out there is such a thing as a giant fishing spider. And it's exactly how it sounds. With a leg span of almost 5 inches, the spider is known to pounce on fish that are temporarily out of the water. They can also dive and swim, remaining fully submerged to ambush their prey. Don't worry, they aren't after you, but could these giant spiders actually be helpful to the environment? Scientists think so. With their ability to shape the ecology and behavior of some fish, these spiders live in freshwater ponds and wetlands where they hunt for meals. Semi-aquatic spiders use their hind legs as anchors, leaving their front legs resting on the water's surface. When the water ripples under them, they attack. Most of the time, they tend to capture smaller insects, but occasionally they attack fish, piercing their flesh and injecting their powerful neurotoxins to attack the central nervous system of their prey. Weighing in at 7 grams, or almost half an ounce, these giant fishing spiders are becoming a dangerous predator to small fish. Do you like spiders? Let me know in the comments below. Number 8. Merry River Turtle. A species of green-haired turtle is making headlines for all the wrong reasons. It has ended up on a list put out by the Zoological Society of London of reptiles that are in trouble. Reptiles on that list are ranked by how distinctive they are and how threatened they are to extinction. One animal, known as the Merry River Turtle, is an Australian species with a green algae on top of its head resembling a mohawk hairdo. It's a punk turtle. Having split from other living species about 40 million years ago, the turtle has special organs near its genitals that allow it to draw oxygen from the water, giving it the ability to stay underwater for up to 3 days without surfacing. A type of short-necked turtle, it is found in fresh water in Queensland, Australia. Kept as a pet in Australia for more than 20 years, it is the only species in the genus. Because the Merry River Turtle doesn't breed until they are around the age of 25, there have been severe declines in the species. Found in flowing streams, they like to build their habitat in parts of the river that are shallow and fast-flowing. With their habitat being disrupted from dam construction, the species was once wildly bought and sold in the pet trade. Luckily, it is now protected by the Australian government as conservation groups work to preserve its habitat and keep it from the edge of extinction. Have you ever seen one of these? Have you ever had a turtle as a pet? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're new here, be sure to subscribe before you go. Number 7. Glass frog. Have you ever wanted a window into the inner workings of a tree frog? Look no further than the glass frog. Found in parts of Central and South America, this frog has a transparent underbelly that allows you to see its inner organs at work. With a number of different species, including a green and yellow spotted frog, as well as a new species discovered in Ecuador that has see-through skin that extends over its chest, the glass frog is a completely unique discovery that is exciting scientists. When they set out to locate the frogs, scientists discovered the 2 distinct species 68 miles apart, suggesting they could extend far beyond the location where the original specimens were found. In early 2020, 3 Bolivian cochrane frogs, another species of glass frogs, were also spotted in a national park for the first time in 18 years. Weighing under 1 gram and measuring from 19 to 24 millimeters, the frogs were found in Carrasco National Park as part of a mission to rescue reptiles and amphibians whose existence is threatened by a new hydroelectric project in the area. The discovery of amphibians is an important indicator of the health of the local ecosystem because their absorbent skin can make them highly susceptible to climate change. With so many frog and amphibian species dying off in recent years, the discovery of new amphibian species is not only exciting, it is a sign that the environment continues to thrive for them, keeping our natural world diverse as it has always been. Number 6. Red-Lipped Batfish. A strange fish with frog-like legs and a lipstick red pout found in the Galapagos Islands is one of the most interesting underwater creatures found in the Pacific Ocean. It looks like it's ready to give you a big slimy kiss. The red-lipped batfish can only be found in the Galapagos at depths of about 30 to 60 feet. Preferring to hang out in the sand or at the rocky bottom of the ocean, there are about 60 species of batfish with modified pectoral fins that look like legs. Although capable of swimming, these fish can often be found walking on the seafloor by alternating movements of their limb-like fins. The red-lipped batfish is an anglerfish, a species that has a strange appendage on their head that they use to lure prey. Wondering where they get their name? All it takes is one look at the bottom dweller and its bright, almost fluorescent red lips, and the evidence is clear. Males will put their big red lips together and do a sort of aggressive dance to see who is bigger and which one gets to keep their territory. We still don't know much about them, but their signature red mouth makes them unmistakable, even as they try to blend into the seafloor. Number 5. Loland Streaked Tenri. Native to Madagascar, the tenric is an insectivore that is a cross between a shrew and a hedgehog. With a long pointed snout and a coat covered in spines, the lowland streaked tenric is distinguished by its long black nose and black coat with yellow stripes. They also have bright yellow spines on top of their head that act as a way to defend themselves against predators. Found in the scrubland as well as lowland and rainforest areas of Madagascar, the animals like to gather in groups and live in family units of up to 20 animals. A foraging animal, they like to move in small groups or even on their own. During winter months, they conserve heat by reducing their body temperature, but they remain active until it gets too cold, after which they go underground and hibernate. Their nests are usually built near water in fixed burrows that are connected to other members of their group in a complex system. They communicate by rubbing their special quills together, which they also use to prickle their opponents when threatened. Newborn lowland tenrics don't have the same spines as the adults in the species and only develop them after birth. A worm-eating animal, they are threatened by the loss of their natural habitat through deforestation, like so many of these strange and endangered animals. Number 4. Venezuelan Poodle Moth. One look at the Venezuelan poodle moth and you might think it's a cuddly creature. However, just because its body is covered in what looks like soft, fuzzy fur, that doesn't mean you want to cuddle up with one. With its white hair, bulging black eyes, and strange brown antennae, they were first discovered in 2009 by a zoologist visiting Venezuela. Insect hairs aren't meant to retain body heat the same way cats or dogs do. Their hair is actually used to not only sense their environment, but to also defend against animals who might try to eat them. Not much is known about this moth, but it looks similar to the Muslim moth, which also has a fuzzy appearance and is found in the United Kingdom. With thousands of new insects discovered every year in the South American rainforest, it's not a stretch that the Venezuelan poodle moth could, in fact, be a new species. With an estimated 11,000 species of moth in the Orchidae family, the only way to classify this insect is to have an actual specimen captured for genetic analysis. Until then, we can only marvel at this incredibly unique insect and hope that one day more we can learn more about this elusive moth and what makes it stand out. Number 3. Sea pen. The underwater world is a deeply fascinating place, especially when creatures such as the sea pen are around. These diverse and delicate underwater animals are a type of coral. With 8 stinging tentacles that they use to capture plankton for food, the sea pen is a polyp, which has a sac-like body cavity that is enclosed by a mouth and surrounded by a ring of tentacles. Similar in appearance to a writing pen or feather, this is where they got their name. Many of the species live in shallow water, though others can be found as deep as 20,000 feet below the surface. They can get really big, with some towering up to 6 feet in height, like underwater buildings. These soft coral come in a number of colorful varieties, including some that glow in the dark. Found as far south as Antarctica, as the sea pen grows, it sprouts more polyps from its stem-like center. They anchor themselves in the ocean floor to keep them from being swept away by strong ocean currents, but have been known to relocate themselves in areas that have more plankton to eat, with scientists estimating they can survive for more than 100 years. The seemingly lifeless creatures bend to the current and are quite responsive when touched, retreating into their bulbous roots for protection. A strange and beautiful creature, they are often used as shelter by small fish and crabs, who hide within their feathered bodies. Number 2. Starnosed Mole. Being known as the fastest eating mammal on Earth is quite a distinction for the strange-looking star-nosed mole. Found in bogs and wetlands of the eastern United States and Canada, when fully grown, the moles are about the size of a rat. Functionally blind, they tend to eat insects, worms, and small fish. But the most noticeable thing about the animal is its strange appearance. Its snout has 22 tentacles that are ultra-sensitive and shaped like a star. The mole uses the snout to find and grab prey, utilizing its 100,000 nerve endings that are packed into barely more than 1 centimeter in diameter. Smaller than a single human fingertip, the mole's star has 30,000 small dome structures that allow it to feel. So instead of seeing the world with eyes, these moles see the underground environment by touching with their snout. Stranger still is the fact that the star on its snout is rich in neurons that are adapted to be touch sensitive, while still being poor in neurons that make them sensitive to feeling pain. It's a win-win. Using their front limbs to tunnel through soggy, marshy areas, they dive and swim for food by blowing bubbles in water and re-inhaling them to smell for underwater prey. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty impressed. Number 1. Orchid Mantis. One look at the Orchid Mantis and you may want to touch the delicate-looking insect to see if it's real. Known as one of the best camouflages in the animal kingdom, they can change color to reflect the vegetation in their habitat. But their appearance, which is known as aggressive mimicry, allows them to hide in plain sight from their prey. Because they look so attractive, all they have to do is sit and wait for another critter to come to them. And many do, since of course they think it's just a flower. What's it gonna do, right? Found in various sizes, shapes, and colors, many of the varieties look so similar to local plants that it makes it easy for them to blend into the scenery. With females measuring 6 to 7 centimeters long and males from 2 to 3 centimeters, orchid mantises were first discovered by a British explorer in the late 1800s. What he thought was a red flower capturing a butterfly in its leaves would later be revealed to him as an orchid mantis. Able to both climb and fly, orchid mantises can become quite aggressive. They often snatch their prey directly out of the air and eat them immediately. And while they usually eat other insects, they also have the ability to take down prey larger than themselves, including frogs, small lizards, and birds, using tiny teeth and the spiky head on their forelegs to take everybody down. Number 8. Band Dog. The Band Dog is also known as the American Banded Mastiff and has unknown origins, but is thought to have emerged as a breed sometime between 1250 and 1300 and to derive from other types of mastiffs. It's not the type of dog that is typically leashed or chained, but instead prefers to roam freely around the house and the yard as it goes about its duties protecting its property and its habitants. The Band Dog has a powerful and stocky build as well as strong limbs, a broad-skulled muzzle, and upright ears. Like many dog breeds, the Band Dog has received a bad reputation due to its imposing build and is banned in certain places throughout the world. Due to their large and imposing build, some people find the Band Dog intimidating or misinterpret them as dangerous, despite their tendency to be friendly to anyone who isn't trying to harm their guardian or family. When it comes to most breeds of dog, no matter how large or small, The most important thing for ensuring they're not unnecessarily aggressive is to raise them properly. A good guard dog is protective but not vicious, and understand when it's appropriate to attack. Generally speaking, different breeds need varying amounts of guidance. The band dog requires attentive and consistent leadership and obedience training. Number 7. Neapolitan Mastiff. There are several Mastiffs that can make this list, but when you see the Neapolitan Mastiff, you'll understand why this one's made the cut. They're experienced guard dogs that have been protectives of homes and of countries for a long time. In fact, Neapolitan Mastiffs were used as war dogs during the days of the Roman Empire, which is indicative of how far back the breed's history goes. Like most guard dogs, they're independent and loyal with large builds. While they look intimidating, Neapolitan Mastiffs are known to be very kind to children and have very sociable natures. With this breed, you'll get the best of both worlds in terms of a tough but friendly guard dog, as long as they're trained properly from a young age. And oh, did you know, Fang from the Harry Potter films was a Neapolitan Mastiff? No wonder Hagrid liked him so much. Should have told you that. And now for number 6. But first, let me know about your favorite dog in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe to Epic Wildlife for more. Number 6. Bibble. The Bibble is a very special guard dog that was bred in South Africa as the only dogs to protect the homestead. Its origins are unknown, but it's evident that the Bibble was bred to be lean, muscular, and strong. These dogs are known to be one of the most powerful breeds in the world. Their no-nonsense personality has led them to do good jobs both protecting people and places. When the owners of a South African diamond mine realized they could use some extra protection, they bought and imported Bibbles to fill the role. An adult Bibble typically weighs 150 to 200 pounds. The average height of an adult male is 24 to 27 inches, while females usually range between 22 and 25 inches. Despite its strength and large build, the Bibble is known for its gentle demeanor and makes a loving and attentive companion that wants to spend time with its owner and to know it's doing a good job. Furthermore, it loves being exercised, which is perfect for bonding and demonstrates the breed's physical capability to fulfill their guard dog duties. I wonder how many Bibbles are called Bubbles. Alright, number 5. The Rottweiler. Based on its popularity, the Rottweiler is one of the best breeds of dog to have as both a guard dog and a friend. Some people fear adult Rottweilers because of their large size and because of their misconstrued reputation as aggressive. However, if you ask anyone who's had a Rottweiler, chances are they'll vouch for the breed's likable nature. Rottweilers were originally bred as herding dogs and to protect livestock from predators. Farmers noticed their loyalty and protective nature, and eventually the Rottweiler's role transitioned to the home, and they've been excellent guard dogs ever since. The Rottweiler's physical appearance comes in handy when it comes to discouraging potential home invaders or anyone else who may be thinking about harming their family. Because of their usefulness as protectors, law enforcement agencies often use Rottweilers in their canine task forces. Don't let the breed's toughness dissuade you from considering one as a pet, even if you aren't necessarily looking for a guard dog. Rottweilers are known for being loving, loyal, and wanting to please their owner. If you give them the chance to adore you, they will do so. You just have to let them be themselves and raise them the right way. These dogs are highly intelligent and trainable, as long as you're willing to make the investment of time and effort. As far as their protection skills go, the American Kennel Club labeled them world-class guardians, which is high praise indeed. Number 4. Tibetan Mastiff. During its early days, the Tibetan Mastiff was born and bred by the Tibetan tribes, as well as tribes in Nepal, Mongolia, China, and India. The tribes wanted and needed a dog that would look out for them in the harsh conditions of the Himalayan mountains, and the Tibetan Mastiff has fulfilled this role for millennia. It was actually their success in doing their job that led to the Tibetan Mastiff being spread all over the world. They've been used to protect royal palaces from intruders, and to great effect. The loyalty of this breed is so absolute that they have been documented taking on terrifying animals such as wolves, bears, and leopards to keep their masters safe. The size of the Tibetan Mastiff fluctuates depending on its fur and gender, but they typically grow to be, at minimum, 26 inches tall and have been known to reach a height of up to 3 feet at times. An average adult weighs up to 160 pounds. While the Tibetan Mastiff is big and heavy, it's also impressively agile, most likely because it was originally bred in the mountains and had to move well through the snow. These dogs can be a bit stubborn and don't do too well with traditional training, but if you play your cards right, the Tibetan Mastiff will respect you and protect you. Before adopting any dog, it's a good idea to research their training requirements, and this is especially important when it comes to breeds that have tricky temperaments. Number 3, my all-time favorite, German Shepherd. When it comes to famous dog breeds, the German Shepherd ranks near at the top of the list, and not just known as popular guard dog, but as a well-favored pet in general. German Shepherds are known for their undivided loyalty to their master and family. They are smart, courageous, and easy to train. They are also known for their willingness to lay down their life for their owner if and when that time comes. These traits have understandably earned the German Shepherd a great deal of respect and praise. If you welcome a German Shepherd into your home, it's beneficial to get one while they're young to ensure a strong connection. However, as many adopted shelter dogs have proven, dogs of all ages can make great companions, and it's never too late to develop a bond with a canine. German Shepherds are intelligent dogs, but require a lot of guidance as puppies. They also need a lot of exercise in order to keep them at their peak physical condition and in top-notch mental health. On average, the German Shepherd can be around 2 feet tall, and males can weigh up to 90 pounds. And with a potential 10-year lifespan, this dog will keep you safe for a while. As always, it's important to consider how long your new friend is likely to live before you commit to dog ownership, so you're prepared to provide for them as long as possible, ideally for the entire life. Me German Shepherd's name is Ivar the Boneless. What's your puppa's name? Let me know in the comments below. Number 2, Doberman Pinscher. At first, you might think that the Doberman Pinscher is a dog type you might want to stay away from, even if you're looking for a good guard dog. This is because the Doberman Pinscher, much like the Rottweiler and several other large dog breeds, had its unfair turn in the spotlight as an alleged aggressive breed. But the Doberman Pinscher is an ideal breed for many and is known as a great guard dog. One of the biggest reasons Doberman Pinschers are reliable guard dogs is their fearless nature. They know how to stand their ground and protect their owners, and it's not just bravado. Their bodies are made for this kind of work. Doberman Pinschers are sleek yet muscular, making them fast, agile, and strong. Their body type and shape allows them to move easily whether walking or running. Despite their reputation as aggressive dogs, Doberman Pinschers are quite intelligent and are known to learn quickly and respond to commands, and can form loving and affectionate relationships with their masters and family members. They need a lot of exercise and are better off when kept indoors with their owners rather than left outside to their own devices. If you're thinking about getting a Doberman Pinscher, make sure you're prepared to put the necessary effort into raising it to be the great guard dog and companion it has the potential to be. Number 1. Great Pyrenees. The Great Pyrenees was bred specifically for protection. They have an inherent determination to ensure the safety of their families and property. They were originally bred in Europe to protect livestock, a task that reportedly requires little to no training and simply comes naturally to the breed. The Great Pyrenees is highly intelligent. They can remember exactly how big their home is, for example, and patrol it without command or instruction, ensuring that no unwelcome invaders cross the perimeter. If you have 2 or more Pyrenees on a single plot of land, they'll work together like a security squad by branching off in different directions and patrolling separate parts of the land so that nothing gets by them. At a height of 32 inches and an average weight of 120 pounds, this is one dog you'll want in your pack. They also have great personalities and double as faithful companions. They are very calm and gentle to non-threatening individuals, especially those they form connections with. I can attest to this, as there are several in the town I live in, and they are sweet, lovable cotton balls of fun.
Number 9. Indri. The Indri is the biggest lemur of them all. Because of this, it has next to no tail, but that doesn't bother them. They're able to hop from tree to tree, often jumping up to 30 feet high. All species of lemur hail from Madagascar, which is a hub of unique biological diversity. Lemurs are primates that evolved separately from monkeys, but they share a lot of features within them. However, lemurs display significant diversity in their own right, as evidenced by the Indri's uniqueness. There are no Indris in captivity anywhere in the world, even though people have tried. When these Indris were put in captivity, none of them lived for longer than a year. No one is positive why this is, but some scientists think that this is because the Indris have a very particular diet involving different kinds of food at different points across the day. This is so difficult to mimic outside of the wild. Furthermore, the Indris don't mate in captivity, so there is little hope for keeping them for long. Number 8. Mountain Gorilla. For years, scientists thought that mountain gorillas would go extinct by the end of the 20th century, but they made it. Just barely. Today, they are one of the most endangered species of gorilla in the world. We all know that gorillas are some of the mightiest animals in the world. Their strength and intelligence make them well equipped to handle whatever comes their way. But sadly, mountain gorilla numbers are dwindling. In the 1960s and 70s, zoos tried to take them from their habitat and breed them in captivity, but to no avail. For one thing, the gorillas just don't survive in zoos. Even though lowland gorillas do pretty well in captivity, scientists aren't quite sure why this is the case, but they think that it might have something to do with the complexity of the mountain gorilla's diet. It would be far too risky to extract enough gorillas from the already threatened populations that would be needed to sustain a stable population in captivity. It could do some serious harm, given that there are only about 880 of them still living. Such incredible creatures, which are relative to humans by the way, deserve respect and protection. Number 7. Horola. The horola, a kind of antelope, lives close to the Kenyan-Somalian border where they remain unprotected. This isn't good news for them because there are only about 500 of them left on Earth. This is what earns them the status of the world's most endangered antelope. Antelopes are pretty much everywhere, but some species have clearly fared better than others in the biological lottery. Why are there so few of these animals left in the world? There are a couple of reasons. First, a disease called rinderpest eradicated about 90% of the individuals left at the time, and they haven't really recovered ever since. And since these antelope primarily eat grass, the ever-encroaching livestock and animal agriculture eating up their grass hasn't left the horola with much to eat. Plus, elephants recently left the horola's area, and they're responsible for clearing the way for grass to grow in the first place. Combine all of these factors and it spells bad news for this subspecies of antelope. Due to their endangered status, there are none in captivity. Every time zoos have tried to breed them, they've failed miserably. It's just too risky to keep one in a zoo. Sorry folks. And now for number 6, but be sure to subscribe to Epic Wildlife and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on more videos like these. Number 6. The Javan Rhino. Some zoologists think that the Javan rhino is the rarest big animal on Earth. Estimates say that there are only around 63 of these rhinos left in the world, and all of them live in Indonesia's Ujung Kulon National Park. Many zoos have been able to keep rhinos in captivity. Lots of them aren't particularly endangered, and with the right treatment, they tend to do pretty well in zoo environments. But the Javan rhino is a different story. Because there are so few of them, they're really hard to research. All 63 of these rhinos live in complicated, dense jungle environments, and zookeepers simply cannot replicate these intricate conditions in the zoo. Due to these facts, the Javan rhino has never been put into captivity. It would be far too dangerous to take a heavily endangered species from the wild without knowledge of how to keep them alive and then propagate them. It's disappointing and sad that we may never be able to see this solitary animal in the flesh, but at least you can check out other rhinos that currently live in other zoos. Number 5. Blue whale. Do you know what the biggest animal is in the world? As you might have guessed, that title belongs to the blue whale. Weighing up to 200 tons and growing as long as 105 feet, blue whales are the largest animals to have ever roamed the earth. Of all time. Big animals are both difficult to capture and difficult to house, but we've gotten pretty good at giving some large animals a place to live, such as elephants and whale sharks, but you are never going to see a blue whale in an aquarium. First off, you'd need a tank big enough to house a blue whale, and given their size, that's unlikely to happen. But an even crazier logistical problem is how to feed them. They can eat around 8,000 pounds during their peak periods of consumption, and their stomachs can handle 2,200 pounds of food in general. So not only would the tank be expensive, but it would be pricey just to feed them. Their tongues alone can weigh up to the same as an elephant. Because of all of this, they're not going to be in an aquarium anytime soon, nor should they, to be honest. Hopefully you can see one on a whale watching tour one day. Number 4. Kakapos. The kakapo is quite the oddball. They're a flightless parrot that can weigh up to 8 pounds, making them one of the largest parrots in the world. Sometimes rarity is a significant factor in housing animals in captivity. That's one reason why the New Zealand native kakapo are never going to be seen at the zoo. They're the only species of parrot on Earth that can't fly and is bound to the ground. They're also critically endangered. There are only 211 left right now, and they can only be found on a few little sanctuary islands around New Zealand. Most people describe kakapos as goofy and hilarious. They make really odd noises. For example, males will make loud booms and wheezes to attract females. Both sexes make absurdly loud scracking noises. Once a mate arrives, the male puts on a show. This is called lek breeding, and kakapos are the only parrot who do this. They're also nocturnal and can live up to 90 years. Talk about a weird and wonderful bird. Their endangered status means that you won't be able to see one of these in a zoo anytime soon. Efforts are in place to conserve them, however. In 2019, 70 new kakapos made it into the world, so hopefully we'll all be able to appreciate the kakapo's strangeness in person one day. Number 3. Great White Shark. You'll never see a great white shark in captivity. Sharks are a staple of most great aquariums. You can often see giant orcas and whale sharks in aquariums, as well as other more common ones. You might think this is because of the great white shark's reputation. It's thought to be one of the most ruthless and dangerous sharks in the world. But actually, they're kept out of aquariums for their own safety, not ours or the animals that they would be surrounded by. In the 1970s, a few aquariums like SeaWorld tried to house some great white sharks, but they died within a couple of weeks at maximum. When they were put into the tanks, the great whites would decline their meals, and they would even have trouble swimming like they did normally in the ocean. Some think they don't last long in tanks because they need to move long distances to survive. In a small space, they tend to stop moving, and if they stop moving, then they have a hard time breathing. The Monterey Bay Aquarium was able to house a great white shark for 198 days, which remains the record for the amount of time a great white has been in captivity. But this took some serious adjustments on their part, involving the construction of a particular kind of egg-shaped tank. Furthermore, it ended up killing 2 other sharks in captivity and was thus released back into the ocean. Number 2. Pink Fairy Armadillo. Don't take a bite out of our next entry. It may look like a piece of sushi, but it's actually a tiny armadillo with a strange pink shell on its back. That shell is this armadillo's weird way of pumping blood throughout its body, which it can do on command in order to adjust its body temperature. It is actually the tiniest armadillo among all of them, and it spends its days entirely underground. Because of this, it is barely ever seen in its homeland, the Argentinian deserts. This is one of the reasons that they're so hard to find. Mariella Suprina, an armadillo researcher who has studied the regions where fairy armadillos live for 13 years, has never seen one in person. And the prognosis for those fairy armadillos that make it above ground only to be caught is grim. If they aren't hit by a car while trying to cross the road, Suprina claims that around 95% of fairy armadillos die in under 8 days when removed from their natural habitat. The pink fairy armadillo devotes all of its energy to digging underground, so it's learned to make good use of its tail as if it were an extra limb. They also have a sort of plate on their butt which they can use to compact the dirt as they keep on mining. They are undoubtedly odd little critters, but they're definitely interesting. Number 1. Narwhale. Narwhales are the beloved unicorns of the sea. Unicorns, alas, do not exist in this world, but we've got something pretty close if you look a little more deeply into the water. You might just catch a glimpse of a narwhale, whose horns can grow up to 10 feet long. No one really knows what the horn is for, but it may be part of the narwhale's mating rituals. One weird thing about this horn is that it's not really a horn at all. Rather, it's just one of the narwhale's 2 teeth. Weird to think that that long horn is really just a humongous tooth. Narwhales are dolphin-like creatures that can weigh up to 1.5 tons and grow to be around 20 feet long. They hang out in packs to hunt, and are most often spotted with around 15 to 20 other narwhales. They don't migrate like whales though. They predominantly live in the Arctic seas around Canada, Norway, and Russia. However, you're never going to be able to see a narwhale in captivity. There were a few attempts at getting them to live in a zoo-like place in the 1960s and 70s, but they didn't go too well. Sadly, all of the narwhals that were caught and kept in enclosures during that period died within just a few months. Every narwhal that has ever been put in a tank has failed to make it very long. Compare this to their roughly 100-year lifespan outside of captivity, and it's a striking statistic. There's something poetic about that. This seemingly mythical creature that excites our imaginations cannot be tamed. Like all wildlife and creatures of the earth, they should and must run free. Number 11. Volcanic Lightning. Imagine 2 of the deadliest natural phenomena working together. As if being scorched alive by lava while being suffocated by volcanic ash was not bad enough already, you can also get struck by lightning at the same time. This is a phenomenon known as volcanic lightning, which can happen when a volcano erupts. While most volcanic eruptions are generally slow and drawn out, with lava flowing slowly down the slope of the volcano and billows of ash spewing gently into the sky, volcanic eruptions can also be sudden and extremely deadly. What happens during a volatile explosion is a massive shift in air temperature caused by molten lava and an eruption of super hot ash. All of this super heat causes friction, kind of like how rubbing a balloon on your head causes your hair to stand on end. The same theory works to explain volcanic lightning. All the heat in the air causes friction, and that causes sparks of electricity. You're highly unlikely to be struck by one of these bolts, considering you should probably not be anywhere near a volcano as it is erupting. But if you were, well, it would be seriously dangerous. Number 10. Fire tornadoes. While we're mixing up natural disasters, how about a firestorm and a tornado twisted into one deadly cyclone of hellfire? These are one of nature's most impressive phenomena. Witnessing a full-sized fire tornado is like witnessing an angry genie raging out of control, burning everything in sight and leaving absolute devastation in its wake. And while fire tornadoes are not super common, they do happen, and I guarantee you do not want to be in the center of one. Basically, a fire tornado, otherwise known as a fire whirl or a fire devil, forms whenever there is a lot of flame and a lot of wind. They're most often found during wildfires, but can even be found when a house goes up in flames. If the wind is strong enough, it can pick up the fire and begin to swirl it around like a cyclone of horrible inferno. These don't come from a level 100 pyromaniac, but merely a unique situation where fire can be swept up in a great gust and blown about indiscriminately, spreading fire from house to house or tree to tree. Imagine such a hot wind that it scorches the flesh right off your bones. And now for number 9, but first be sure to subscribe if you're new here and join us. And let me know if you've ever experienced any of these phenomena. Number 9. Ice spikes. Ice spikes are not the most dangerous natural phenomena to occur on our planet, but I certainly would not want to fall on a bed of jagged ice daggers. This natural occurrence happens generally in high altitude areas where the environment is dry and cold, most famously in the Atacama Desert of Chile. And while I call them ice spikes, the scientific name for these dangerous formations is penitentes. They are called this because of their uncanny resemblance to repentant people at prayer, all bent in the direction of the sun. Chances of dying in one of these ice spike fields are pretty low. I mean, the ice spikes are only formed from snow, dry air, and a bit of wind. Still, some are razor sharp and only a few inches above the ground, meaning that if you were to fall, you might find yourself stabbed by about 24 icy blades. I don't know about you, but I sure would feel like a sucker if I met my end that way. What would they even write on my tombstone? Number 8. Locusts. When people think about natural phenomena, they're always thinking about volcanoes and hurricanes. landslides, and avalanches. But what about the insect scourge that has been killing people for centuries? You know, the thing that you never hear about on the news? Mosquitoes have killed more people than anything else ever in the history of the world. Roughly 50 billion lives since humankind started wandering around. I'm talking about you, malaria. But today I want to talk about locusts, a bizarre natural plague of insects that threatens to plunge the world into darkness. A bit dramatic for sure, but true nonetheless. Locusts decimate crops. They fly into fields like an army of demons and completely destroy crops. In fact, locust swarms have been spotted recently in Kenya that spanned an area bigger than Luxembourg. Just picture that for a minute. A whole swarm of bugs just as big as an entire country blasting across the desert, destroying food as they go. There are currently 25 million people in danger of losing food because of locusts. This is one of those non-commercialized natural phenomena, because it's hard to see the immediate damage, but 25 million people going hungry because of a swarm of bugs is arguably more dangerous than a volcanic eruption or even an avalanche. Number 7. Lenticular Clouds. Lenticular clouds get their name from their lens or saucer-like shape, which also explains their nickname, flying saucer clouds. In fact, they're sometimes mistaken for UFOs. Other nicknames for lenticular clouds include cloud ships, clouds of heaven, and lennies. Lenticular clouds are stationary clouds that form at high altitudes in the sky, aligned at a right angle to the direction of the wind. This is why they often form over mountain ranges, when stable humid air blows over the top of the range. If the temperature is low enough on the downwind side of the mountains, the moisture in the air will condense into a saucer-shaped cloud, and if the conditions are right, groups of lenticular clouds can form what scientists call a wave cloud. Another unique feature of this natural phenomena is that lenticular clouds can be brightly coloured along their edges. Lenticular clouds can also form over flat land if there is a shear wind. Airplane pilots try to avoid flying near lenticular clouds. The waves of air that form them can cause turbulence, turning a beautiful sight into a bouncy, scary experience. However, that same reason to avoid them is the reason why people who fly gliders love them. Those same air currents allow gliders to sail to great heights and long distances. Number 6. Methane in the ice. It is no secret by now that methane can be incredibly dangerous. Methane gas comes from underground and releases greenhouse gas into the atmosphere. Not only is this incredibly dangerous to our environment since it's a potent greenhouse gas, but one of the biggest extinction events in the history of the planet was caused by massive amounts of methane leaking into the atmosphere. It was called the Permian extinction, and it happened when too much methane flooded the planet, caught fire, and turned Earth into a giant ball of flame, killing almost 99% of life on the planet. There is some genuine fear it could happen again. One of the biggest examples is in the Arctic, where entire lakes recently thawed due to rising global temperatures, are bubbling constantly with methane gas being released from below. One open flame in a methane stream can turn into a tower of fire. Imagine if that happened to the atmosphere. Methane bubbles form in bodies of water when dead organic matter, like leaves and animals, falls into the water and sinks to the bottom. The bacteria in the lake bed consumes the matter and releases methane. The methane then floats to the surface of the water and disperses. But what happens when sub-zero temperatures turn that lake into a skating rink? Then you get flammable ice bubbles. This is an incredible natural phenomenon that could wipe out existence as we know it, as more and more ice melts and more methane streams into the atmosphere. I don't know about you guys, but this seems pretty damn dangerous to me. Number 5. Warm water blob. The warm water blob, or the blob for short, is partly a natural phenomena and partly human influenced. Think of the ocean as a well-controlled environment where temperatures remain the same and all life thrives in a closed circuit. Essentially, the circle of life. Now what happens when a giant blob of overheated water invades the controlled environment? The answer is complete disaster. The blob, which is basically a 3.5 million square mile patch of extremely warm water, has had devastating effects on the environment. including disrupting the food chain, encouraging massive growth of toxic algae, and crippling marine life. Whales, birds, fish, anything that lives in or survives off the ocean has been affected by the giant temperature blob. To put it in perspective, if the average global temperature rises by only 3 degrees, we're basically all dead. This patch of warm water is 7 degrees Fahrenheit higher than it's supposed to be. So yeah, you could call the warm water blob one of nature's most deadly phenomena. It may not be immediately visible to us, but the deaths of millions of sea creatures will have a domino effect on the rest of the planet. The fear is that the blob will return bigger, badder, and more deadly, causing massive storm-like tsunamis and hurricanes. Number 4. Sinkholes. Sinkholes are a terrifying phenomenon. Picture this: you're at home watching TV, enjoying a nice beverage, feet up on the couch, and not a worry in the world. And then a giant crater opens underneath your house and swallows you into the dark abyss of the underground. Sure, that might seem a little dramatic, but that's exactly what a sinkhole ultimately is. A sinkhole forms when the rock underneath the ground deteriorates to such a level that the surface layer collapses in on itself, just like a mine cave-in. This is an implosion of terrifying proportions, and it's not as rare as you might think. Sinkholes can and have formed under city streets, in the middle of a farmer's field, or anywhere else the rock beneath the surface has been compromised, often by groundwater. You may have heard of the cenotes in Mexico, massive holes in the ground where you can swim and dive. Well, these are sinkholes, just very old ones. But as time goes on, more and more sinkholes are opening in our modern society. Nobody knows where a massive sinkhole will appear next. Number 3. Wind and water, hurricanes and tsunamis. Cyclones, typhoons, hurricanes and tsunamis are some of the most intense natural phenomena that occur on our planet, and they do so on a regular basis. It's hard to find one place in the world that is not currently under threat by extreme winds and water. Every coastal city on Earth is in danger of being destroyed by the power of the wind and sea. From the devastating tsunami that wrecked Japan and caused disaster at the Fukushima nuclear reactor, to the vicious hurricanes that besiege Florida and New Orleans on an almost yearly basis, there is no stopping the forces of wind and water. Hurricanes and tsunamis are the greatest known threat to coastal cities of mankind. Waves 15 meters high, flocks of tornadoes fueled by a massive tropical cyclone, flooding and landslides, disruption of sea life, and loss of homes. Hurricanes and tsunamis are unstoppable phenomena, and chances are they're going to get worse. Number 2. Volcanoes. This should come as no surprise to anyone. Volcanoes are nature's most prevalent danger. Why? Because we see them all the time, towering over our cities and looming ominously on the horizon like an infernal Mount Doom. Volcanoes have proved time and time again that they are not to be taken lightly, seemingly spitting up molten hot lava whenever they feel inclined. And while some places like Italy, Hawaii, and Indonesia are in constant danger of one of their volcanoes blowing sky high, did you know the rest of the world is also in incredible danger? Volcanoes literally built the Earth, and they can take it away too. Islands like Hawaii were built from volcanic eruptions. In fact, volcanic eruptions shaped much of our planet. But one monumental burst has the potential to shroud the Earth in total darkness. If a giant volcano were to have a historic eruption, the ash from such a mega explosion could float into the atmosphere and permeate the entire globe, creating a sheet of blackness between us and the sun. Crops would wither and die, and the Earth would grow cold. And this brings us to our final natural phenomenon. Number 1. Ice Age. One of the greatest natural phenomena is the Ice Age. I'm not saying we're about to enter an Ice Age, but it is a natural part of the Earth's cycle. The last one was about 12,000 years ago, when massive sheets of ice covered all of Canada, northern United States, northern Europe, and northern Asia. The world as we know it was a giant sheet of pure ice, at which time the sea level was also over 100 meters lower than it is today. This is a wild phenomenon that has to do with the changes in our planet's orbit and tilt, and they actually happen pretty frequently. For roughly the last 2.6 million years, we've been alternating between huge ice ages and short periods where the Earth is warm like it is now. Think of it like the long winter. The planet freezes for about 90,000 years, a period of time in which temperatures are drastically colder than they are now. After, there is a brief 10,000 year summer, which we've been in for about 2,000 years longer than normal. The phenomenon of the Ice Age is like the Earth's ultimate change of season. Tell me in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. As always, thank you for watching and I'll see you again soon for another fantastic video.
Number 10. Shark versus shark. Sharks are generally feared as man-eaters, even though these ocean predators hardly ever hunt humans. But what about a shark that hunts other sharks? According to Australian scientists, in a report from Gizmodo, a great white shark was recently attacked and eaten by what they referred to as a colossal cannibal great white shark. After having tagged an enormous 9 feet long, 3 meter great white, the tag washed up on shore with no trace of the shark with it. Upon inspection of the information on the tag, scientists saw that there was first a massive plunge in depth of about 580 meters, then a temperature rise of 78 degrees Fahrenheit, or 25.5 degrees Celsius, that lasted for 8 days, matching the digestive temperatures and time of a great white shark. All this evidence suggests a bigger and meaner super predator is cannibalizing smaller sharks. And by the way, 3 meters is not small. The cannibal shark would have to be 16.5 feet or 5 meters in length. That is a super beast. The only other explanation is that a shark may have taken a small bite out of the tagged shark, swallowing its tag and a little bit of meat, but that is far less interesting and dramatic. Number 9. Octopus versus eagle. Octopus seem to be real bullies. These thieving predators will snatch just about anything and try to drag it into the ocean with them. There are countless videos of octopus snatching crabs from off the shore, birds that get too close to the water, and all kinds of fish and unsuspecting crustaceans. But in a recent video, there appears to be footage of a giant Pacific octopus and an eagle locked in battle. While no one knows how this fight started, by the time the video commences, the eagle is definitely on the losing end. Totally besieged by the octopus's orange, slimy arms, how in the world did this deep ocean cephalopod and the king of the skies come to meet in a small bay off of Vancouver Island, Canada? Beats me. But in any case, some interlopers managed to separate the eagle from the octopus and both went their separate ways. This is one of the weirdest attacks you can ever see, considering these two animals do not belong anywhere close to each other. Maybe the octopus should stay underwater where it belongs, and that eagle should stop messing about in octopus territory. And now, for an eel on the loose. But first, be sure to subscribe if you're new here and let me know if you've ever been attacked by a sea creature in the comments below. Number 8. Eel Attacks Everyone. The moray eel is one cranky sea creature. Back in 2016, a Swedish couple was snorkeling in the famous Anama Bay of Hawaii when they stumbled upon a vicious moray eel locked in a death battle with a rather unfortunate octopus. The eel was enormous and easily the length of an adult entire leg. While the Swedish couple Nicholas and Ellen, both in their 20s, filmed the intense battle between the eel and the octopus, it quickly became apparent the octopus was losing. Moray eels are incredibly savage predators, and if it weren't for a blast of ink and a smooth getaway, the octopus would have been lunch. Apparently enraged by its loss of the octopus, the eel then turned its attention to the Swedish couple. Without skipping a beat, the eel launched itself through the octopus's ink cloud, mouth open, teeth sharp and glaring in the light, and tried to take a bite out of the couple. They somehow narrowly avoided a painful bite, and the eel ended up slithering away while the couple scrambled for safety. It was a close call, but the couple sure did get some great footage. Moray eels actually have 2 jaws. This eel is just like the monster from the Alien movies. With a jaw that snaps forward from within its head, it can basically chew you with 2 mouths while pulling you into its throat. Scary. Number 7. Shark fights. Robot? Anyone can talk about a shark attacking a surfer, It does happen, though not often. But it's a little played out and nobody wants to hear about another shark attack. But this one is a little different. Recently, during an expedition to Guadalupe Island in Mexico to track the famous great white sharks and their eating habits, one of the autonomous shark can vehicles was attacked. Why? Probably because the shark mistook the vehicle for a tasty seal or some other animal. Most of the times when the shark attacks their prey, they don't really eat them. They are just tasting. But an attack is an attack. And as you can see in the video, the shark attacks strongly and decides to eat the robot. While recording the shark swimming about in the murky blue, the robot was mercilessly attacked as the shark surged upwards, clamping its jaws over the robot and tried to chew through it. After a few moments, the shark realized its mistake and gave up on the battle. Seems to me the only way to defeat a shark is with a robot. Good to know for the next time I'm surfing. Number 6. Octopus on the Roof. At first glance, you may have mistaken this sculpture for an octopus trying to drag a diver off the side of a boat. But don't fret, this is merely an intriguing sculpture on the hull of the Undersea Gardens tourist attraction in Newport, Oregon. The tourist attraction is housed inside of a ship which is 150 feet long. The star character of the garden is, however, a very real and very alive octopus. The Undersea Gardens offer a kind of live theater in which a diver enters the marine garden and explains about different types of sea life, aquatic species, and other marine biology. If you are lucky enough, the diver will coax the octopus from its hiding place and allow you to have a close look at its tentacles and its beak. Fun fact, an octopus can fit through any space that its beak can fit through. This is because octopus have no bones. The only hard part of their anatomy is their beak, which is made from a material very similar to our own fingernails. In case you didn't know, octopus come from the same family as snails, which is why they are so soft and squishy, but they outgrew the use of their shells many, many years ago. Number 5. When killer whales attack. They don't call them killer whales for nothing. These marine monsters are absolute terrors of the ocean. You may also know them as orca whales, and they are notorious for bullying, harassing, and generally going about the ocean in a sadistic and vicious way. On May 18th off the coast of California, a group of orcas carried out a coordinated assault on a blue whale who was simply minding its own business. National Geographic shows drone footage of the poor whale being ganged up on and assaulted by an entire gang of mean-spirited orca whales. This is incredibly bold considering the blue whale is the largest animal on the planet. Researchers say the orca whales probably had no intention of eating the blue whale. It is more likely that the orcas were playing with it, just like how a cat may play with a mouse. And while researchers claim orca whales are playful and social, it seems like they are rude and unpleasant creatures. In fact, it is well known that killer whales are the playground bullies of the ocean. Maybe next time this unfortunate blue whale will steer clear of orca territory. Number 4. 200 million year old squid attack. This could very well be the oldest squid attack known to man. Forget about Moby Dick or the Kraken. This is a very real beast, fossilized in rock. And while this 200 million year old fossil was discovered first in the 19th century, Live Science reports that new analysis has revealed exactly what this fossil is. It comes from the Jurassic period and depicts a squid who had just crushed the head of a fish and was about to make a meal of it when both squid and fish were struck by disaster. While this may not be as exciting as video footage of a squid eating a diver or trying to rip off a poor swimmer's leg, it is a very cool piece of history. It was found off the coast of England and has been confirmed as the oldest known example of a squid attacking its prey. The squid itself was about 16 inches or 40 centimeters in length and had been in the midst of chewing on an 8-inch, 20-centimeter fish when disaster killed both of them, at which point they sunk to the bottom of the ocean, the fish with its broken brain still in the squid's jaws. On the bottom of the ocean they stayed until we uncovered them 200 million years later as one fossil. Pretty cool. Number 3. Attack of the snapping turtle. Turtles are not the first sea creatures you usually think of when you think of horrifying attack, but these reptilian, water-dwelling, swamp-living, pond-sucking little green dragons have a seriously dangerous bite. Nobody knows this better than the young woman in the state of Georgia who tried to pick one up on the side of the road in September of 2013. According to an article from the Covington News, a young guy named Ryan Franklin pulled over on the side of the road when he saw the woman attempting to remove the giant 60-pound, 27-kilogram snapping turtle from the roadside. Of course, the turtle didn't know the woman was trying to help, and it showed its hostility by reaching around and biting down hard on her arm. Ryan claimed the woman was screaming with blood oozing out of the bite, and he had to intervene. He managed to save the woman by dumping a bottle of rubbing alcohol onto the turtle's head so that it opened its jaws. The turtle then proceeded to make a hot getaway. Ryan stayed and binded the girl's wound while waiting for the paramedics. When they arrived, they took her to the hospital in an ambulance. They didn't exchange names, so he had no way to discover what happened to her. What do you think happened to the girl? Let me know in the comments below. Number 2. Jellyfish attack. Here is something most of us can relate to. You're in the water, you're swimming around, and all of a sudden you realize there are translucent, squishy blobs floating about you in the water. That's right, it is the attack of the dreaded jellyfish. These silent, floating scoops of jelly are extremely dangerous and can be deadly. This is especially true in Koh Samui, Thailand, where box jellyfish can be found all year. When a jellyfish attacks you, you are going to feel immediate pain in the affected area because of the jellyfish tentacles. Those contain microscopic stingers with tiny bulbs that hold venom. They use these to protect themselves and paralyze prey. In fact, several tourists in Thailand have passed away from jellyfish attacks. One of the most recent was a German tourist who got shocked in 2015. Even more recently, in October 2019, a Russian boy was stung while swimming at Lemur Beach. Luckily, the boy was rushed to the hospital and saved. He was extremely lucky, as box jellyfish are some of the most fatally toxic jellyfish in the world. The beach is all fun and games until one of these slimy pods of goop stings you. Number 1. Piranha attack. While most of us were at home enjoying Christmas with our families, stuffing our faces with turkey and ham, opening presents and reveling in joy and good cheer, down in Argentina, over 70 people were injured in a flash piranha attack. The New York Post reported that at least 20 children were injured and at least 7 lost parts of their fingers or toes to the piranha, a type of piranha. This was a brutal and unprovoked attack by an entire school of piranhas that sent swimmers running and screaming for safety. Gustavo Centurion, a medical official, said the attack was very aggressive. It happened during a heat wave in Rosario, 200 miles north of Buenos Aires. Thousands of people were trying to escape the deadly heat when, unbeknownst to them, they embarked into deadly waters. The school of piranha ripped, tore, and bit chunks of flesh from their bodies, and there was nothing they could do except scream in horror. Gabriela Quintanilla, Argentina's health undersecretary, told reporters there were some people that the fish literally had torn bits of flesh from. The craziest part of this story is that within 30 minutes after 70 people were brutally injured by these dangerous fish, other swimmers were back in the water trying to keep cool in the brutal South American heat. Police had to force sunbathers out of the water after the attack, and the beach was closed. Even though piranhas rarely attack humans, let this be a lesson to anyone thinking about taking a dip in a river where piranhas call home. Number 10. Creatonitous gangus. The Creatonitous gangus is a type of extremely bizarre moth found primarily in Southeast Asia and Australia, and particularly in Thailand. But these are no ordinary moths. They have white wings and a red abdomen, and what appear to be disgusting tentacles sticking out of their rear end. This is undoubtedly the most disgusting moth on the planet. It is freaky and hard to believe unless you saw it for yourself. The moth has 6 legs, 2 antennae, and 4 hairy tentacles sprouting from out of its butt. According to experts, the nasty tentacles sticking out from the moth's abdomen are actually scent glands, and apparently the moth uses its furry scent glands to try and attract a mate. However, it mostly looks like some kind of freakish alien moth hybrid waiting to lay its eggs in your stomach so that you can turn into a tentacle monster. Most of the time, the scent glands are actually deflated, so you will hardly even notice them. But when they decide to attract a mate, the moth's tentacles get out of control. If you were not scared of moths or butterflies before, I'll guarantee you would be if you came face to face with this unbelievable creature. Number 9. Sparkle Muffin. You would hardly believe that there's a spider skulking around the forests of Australia named the Sparkle Muffin, but there very much is, even if it wasn't discovered until 2015. This is an extremely elusive spider, and it looks incredibly bizarre. It is one of Australia's many peacock spiders, named so because of their bright peacock colours, but the spider's odd shape, grey and black legs, and beady yellow eyes make it even stranger than normal. The spider itself is only 5 millimeters long, but it is larger than life weird. It looks more like a character from a cartoon than a real spider. It even has what appears to be a strange hat sitting on the end of its abdomen. This is definitely the only adorable spider that you would not jump up in fear of. The first peacock spider was found in the 1800s, according to a published scientific report in 2015, but after the initial discovery, nobody took a look at these arachnids for roughly 100 years. Now there are new peacock spiders being discovered all the time, like the Skeletoris, which was found about the same time as the Sparkle Muffin. Have you ever seen anything like this? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new here. Number 8. Axolotl. No list of unusual creatures is complete without a weird amphibian. Let me introduce you to the axolotl, a native to the lakes and canals surrounding Mexico City. This little Mexican amphibian was once an important food source for the Aztec people. However, since then their numbers have dwindled dramatically because of habitat loss, and they are now facing imminent extinction. What makes this animal so unique and strange is the way it looks. With its weird tentacle-like protrusions sticking out from the sides of its head, it's like weird fuzzy ears. Axolotl can grow to be up to 18 inches in length and are pretty magnificent animals. In fact, this animal has a superpower. It is able to regrow lost limbs completely. If you were to chop off this amphibian's arm, he would simply grow it back as if it was no big deal. Axolotls are a type of salamander, but they only recently evolved. Because of this, they look very strange. They are way behind us on the evolutionary chain. The fuzzy ears growing out from their head are actually gills, and they allow this weird salamander to stay in the water for its entire life. Interestingly enough, even though the axolotl is facing extinction in the wild, it is one of the most traded reptiles in captivity. There are many more of them in aquariums and cages across the world than there are in their native habitat. So, even if they go extinct in the wild, chances are captive breeding will keep these species alive. Number 7. Naked Mole Rat. The naked mole rat is one of the most unnatural and weird animals around today. It does not look like it has any business being anywhere on our planet. The naked mole rat is extremely common in East Africa, living happily in the dry grasslands of Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya. But this unusual animal has confused scientists for years because of its bizarre biological traits. Unlike most rodents, naked mole rats are able to live up to 32 years. Naked mole rats live longer than dogs, cats, and even some people. Naked mole rats are completely resistant to cancer, and they can live in harsh environments with almost zero oxygen. They are one of the most rugged survival creatures on the earth, and I doubt if they will ever go extinct anytime soon. What makes naked mole rats so unbelievable is their nudity. They look like underdeveloped kittens with no fur and massive teeth. And speaking about their teeth, a naked mole rat is able to move its front teeth separately, as if it were using chopsticks. Imagine being able to move each of your teeth individually. It's unbelievable. Number 6. Alligator Garb. Some people think the only dinosaurs currently walking the earth are alligators, crocodiles, tortoises, and Komodo dragons. But there are many other species of animal that date back hundreds of millions of years and have been thriving on the planet ever since. One of these crazy animals is the alligator garb, which is a bizarre fish and alligator hybrid dating back to about 100 million years ago. The fish comes equipped with a grotesque alligator nose, sharp rows of alligator teeth, and it actually prefers to breathe air even though it's a fish. This is an incredibly unique animal, not only as a fish, but as a living creature. And even though the alligator gar looks terrifying with its huge snout and sharp teeth, they are supposedly very docile creatures. They spend most of their time swimming casually through the rivers and lakes in the south, all the way from the Rio Grande to the Missouri River. Fun fact, according to How Stuff Works, alligator gars are actually the largest living species of gar in the world, which is pretty impressive considering there are 7 different species. They can grow to be up to 350 pounds, and if you were wondering, they have no biological relation at all to alligators. Number 5. The pangolin. Pangolins are one of the coolest and most unusual animals on the planet. If you have ever seen a pangolin before, you would think it were a Pokemon. Pangolins are the only mammals on Earth born with scales. These mammals actually have plated armor over their bodies, and they live primarily in Central Africa and West Africa, India, and Southeast Asia. They even act like Pokemon when threatened, curling into a defensive ball whenever predators get too close. When they curl into a ball, they are pretty well protected by their armor coating, looking more like a cannonball than an animal. It should be known that pangolins, as strange and unusual as they are one of the most illegally trafficked animals in the entire world for their scales, especially in Asia, where some believe their scales have medical powers. It's a shame, because pangolins are some of the cutest and most unusual animals that most people have never heard of, looking like an armored anteater, and they are on the verge of extinction due to poaching. Number 4. Loland Streaked Tenri. Meet the Loland Streaked Tenri, the only animal that looks like a rat mixed with a caterpillar. These are the most unusual insectivores in the world, and they live peacefully on the island of Madagascar. I know I compared them to a rat and a caterpillar, but they more closely resemble the mix between a shrew and a hedgehog. The tenric has an extremely long snout and spiky spines all over its coat. It uses its spines to stay safe from predators, mostly from mongoose. Whenever something gets too close and puts its nose or its paws on the tenric, the predator gets an unwelcome surprise of sharp needles. What makes this lowland streaked tenric so bizarre and unbelievable is its tiny stature and weird coloring. It has black fur, black eyes, and jagged yellow needles sticking out of its head. This is definitely one of the stranger insect eaters roaming throughout the underbrush, and they only live for about 2.5 years. Number 3. Proboscis monkey. Everyone knows that humans and monkeys look pretty similar, but there is something truly unnerving about looking into the face of the proboscis monkey. It looks like a human person, but with big bushy eyebrows and a big bulbous nose. You would never believe that this strange monkey was real unless you saw one firsthand. They have whitish orange fur and very leathery orange faces with eyes that seem way too human, and one of the biggest noses in the animal kingdom. The Malay name for these monkeys is Orange Belinda, which translates to Dutchman. This is supposedly because the monkeys reminded the locals of Borneo of the first Dutchmen who arrived in their country because of their fat bellies and large noses. They reminded them of pot-bellied European settlers. You can find the proboscis monkey lounging around in Borneo in mangrove forests. They eat only unripe fruit and grow to be about 50 pounds. That is pretty big for a tree-swinging monkey. The reason they only eat unripe fruit is because the sugar in normal fruit will ferment inside their stomach and could cause them to bloat to such a point that it becomes fatal. Talk about a sugar-free diet. Number 2. Redlipped Batfish. How would you feel about a fish wearing lipstick? It doesn't quite seem real, but the red-lipped batfish looks like it's going out on a Saturday night date. It has the reddest lips you have ever seen on any fish. It is also one of the most unusual fish living in the ocean right now. It kind of looks like a flying saucer with its landing gear down, and it also kind of looks like a weird crabfish hybrid. And besides that, the red-lipped batfish always seems to be frowning. It's hard to believe this fish exists, but it does, and it lives in the deep waters near the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Ecuador. The fish itself is only about the size of a burrito, but its lips are unusually large and bright red. They almost look like a pair of melted Twizzlers. Besides that, the fish can barely even swim. It has pectoral fins and pelvic fins, but it only uses them to scuttle awkwardly across the ocean floor. If anything, the red-lipped batfish appears to be a mistake that happened somewhere along the evolutionary line. Number 1. Wolf cat. Yes, werewolves do exist, but not in the way that you think. The Lycoid cat also known as the werewolf cat or the wolf cat, are real-world werewolves. They look exactly like a werewolf in the middle of its transition. According to a report by Feline Living, this appearance is because of a random mutation passed down through feral cats and continued with selective breeding. The wolf cat is actually not related to wolves at all, although they do look particularly grisly. Wolf cats have extremely vivid and yellow eyes, pointy ears, and a long wolf-like nose. They are also rare in that they have a mix of short white hairs, black fur, and patterned balding, so they look almost like a mix between a sphinx and a wolf. While not recognized as a breed just yet, Lycoid cats are on their way to being in it as a real cat breed. One thing is for sure, you would never expect a wolf cat to really exist. Thanks for watching. If you have any stories about your beloved guard dog, be sure to share it in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to Epic Wildlife. See you next time.